Christmas carols drifted through my Austin home. The atmosphere was perfect until Melissa approached the armchair with a thick envelope. "You're going to love this, Dad," she announced, her smile too bright. Her husband, Mark, shifted uncomfortably on the couch. The papers inside detailed Mark's $250,000 debt. "Mark got into trouble. An investor will sue him if he doesn't return the money," Melissa explained, her voice softening slightly. "We've been hiding for a month." "You could have asked instead of demanding," I replied, letting the weight of their deception settle. "Dad, don't be difficult. This is family. We help each other, right?" Melissa pressed. "By New Year's. We need it by New Year's or the lawsuit starts." I studied her face, seeing calculation and entitlement. "Absolutely," I said finally, watching relief flood her features. "I'll certainly think about it." But a cold smile touched my lips. A plan for revenge was already forming. 35 years I raised you to respect people," I said, setting the papers down. "And you come to my home on Christmas with an ultimatum. This is family. We should help each other. You have more money than you could ever spend." Melissa shot back, her voice rising. "That's not the point," I countered. "The point is that you spent a month planning this ambush, all while calculating the perfect moment to corner me." Mark stammered about his failed AI startup, citing massive growth potential. "Is that what you call gambling with other people's money? How many investors did you sweet talk?" I stepped closer. "When exactly did you realize you were in over your head? Before or after you took Victor Stone's money?" The name Victor Stone hit Mark like a physical blow. His face went white. You know Victor?" "I know Victor Stone quite well." My daughter's confidence completely shattered. "You've known this whole time?" Melissa whispered. "I've known about the debt for 2 weeks. What I didn't know was how you planned to handle it. I never imagined you'd choose manipulation over honesty." "So what now?" Melissa asked, bitterness coloring her voice. Now I'll think about it, just like I promised." "Fine. I'll come December 29th at 4 o'clock. I hope you'll get over yourself and think it through by then." She stormed out without looking back. I looked at the debt papers. 4 days until December 29th. The hurt father was replaced by the successful businessman. My success was built on integrity, accountability, and consequences for poor decisions. I called my lawyer, Tom Brown. "Tom, I need some information about private debt collection in Texas. Specifically, what happens when someone defaults on a private investment loan?" Tom immediately suspected Mark. "Robert, tell me you didn't co-sign anything for him." "No. But he owes $250,000 to someone named Victor Stone. And yesterday my daughter handed me the bill as a Christmas present." My plan wasn't just about refusing the money. It was about teaching my entitled daughter and her irresponsible husband a lesson in accountability that no amount of money could buy. I needed to understand the legal landscape, and I needed to deal directly with the person who held the true power in this situation, Victor Stone. Barney's next step was to contact Victor Stone directly to understand the severity of the debt and the leverage the creditor held over Mark. By going straight to the source, Barney could negotiate terms, gather critical intelligence, and set the stage for the dramatic confrontation he was planning for December 29th. The silence on Tom's end stretched long enough that I wondered if the call had dropped. "Victor Stone," Tom finally said. "Robert, that man doesn't mess around. He's legitimate, but he expects his money back on time with interest." Tom warned me. Stone is fair but ruthless, has resources for tracking debtors, and Texas law favors creditors. He typically files suit 90 days past the due date, which meant Mark had perhaps 8 weeks left. I tasked Tom with researching Stone Investment Group's legal proceedings against Mark. By 2 o'clock, Tom's email confirmed my suspicion. Victor Stone had already begun preliminary legal proceedings, default notices, and demand letters. Tommy walked in, sensing I was planning something big. I decided to involve him on principle. When someone makes a bad decision and it hurts other people, what should happen? I asked. They should face the consequences. Make it right somehow, Tommy answered without hesitation. Otherwise, they'll just keep making bad decisions because they know someone else will always clean up their mess. What would you think if I told you I was going to help the man your father owes money to find him? Tommy's eyes brightened. That would teach them something. Giving them money would just teach them that manipulation works. I decided to call Victor Stone the next day and arrange a meeting. The next morning, I met Victor Stone in his elegant office. Mr. Clark, Stone said, I have to admit, when you called yesterday asking to discuss Mark Johnson, I was curious. I got straight to the point. My son-in-law owes you $250,000, and my family believes I should simply write a check to make his problems disappear. Stone's eyebrows rose. And you don't agree with that approach? I think Mark needs to learn responsibility, and my daughter needs to understand that she can't manipulate people to solve problems she didn't create. Stone smiled approvingly. He confirmed that Mark had been evading service of process, making collection time-consuming and expensive. What if I told you I could save you that time and expense? I leaned forward. I can tell you exactly where Mark is hiding. In exchange, I want to be present when you serve him with papers. Stone considered the proposal. You're essentially volunteering to help me collect from your own family member. I'm volunteering to help teach my family about accountability, I corrected. If I pay this debt, Mark will learn that reckless decisions can be fixed by manipulation. My daughter will learn that emotional blackmail works. What lesson does that teach my grandson? Stone's smile became genuinely warm. You're a man of principles, Mr. Clark. I respect that. I accept your proposal. December 29th, 4 o'clock. My daughter is coming to my house to collect the money she's demanding. I suggest we provide her with a more educational experience instead. Victor and I met with his attorney, David Richards, a specialist in commercial collection. I can tell you exactly where he'll be tomorrow at 4 o'clock, I told Richards. My house, along with my daughter, who's been orchestrating this whole attempt to manipulate me. Richards explained the requirements for proper service, physical delivery of documents, and verbal identification. Since we'll have clear identification and a controlled environment, there shouldn't be any procedural complications. Victor planned to have 3 people, 1 to serve the papers, and 2 witnesses/backup, positioned near my house by 3:45 p.m. I provided crucial intelligence about Mark. Ill pace. Won't sit still when he's anxious. He's fundamentally a coward, Richards noted. Flight risk behavior supports our urgency claims if we need to pursue immediate garnishment. The trap was set for December 29th at 4 p.m. Barney's next step was to contact Victor Stone directly to understand the severity of the debt and the leverage the creditor held over Mark. By going straight to the source, Barney negotiated a deal to set a legal trap for his son-in-law. Barney offered to reveal Mark's location and presence at his house on December 29th at 4 p.m. in exchange for being present when Stone's legal team served Mark with the lawsuit papers. This was to ensure Mark faced accountability and his daughter, Melissa, witnessed the consequences of their deception. Robert, are you comfortable with everything we've discussed? I nodded, feeling the satisfaction of a well-planned strategy. Tomorrow at 4 o'clock, my daughter is expecting to collect $250,000. Instead, she's going to learn what happens when you try to solve problems with manipulation. The next morning, at Tom Brown's office, I signed the most significant legal document of my life, the revised will. Melissa's inheritance was reduced to a symbolic $1,000. Tommy's share was dramatically increased, along with significant donations to charities that taught financial responsibility. Someone who can blackmail their own father doesn't deserve to be rewarded for that behavior, I explained to Tom. I also included a personal letter to Melissa, explaining my reasoning and offering hope for reconciliation only if she demonstrated genuine change. The will would remain a secret until after the confrontation. That evening, Tommy and I played chess. In chess, Tommy, every move creates consequences that ripple forward, I said, mirroring the life lesson I was about to teach. Exactly like what you're doing with Mom and Dad. Victor Stone called right on schedule. Everything ready for tomorrow? I confirmed. My people will be positioned near your house at 3:45. David has all the paperwork prepared and properly certified, Victor assured me. Tommy, listening, asked, Grandpa, what will happen to our family after tomorrow? That depends entirely on how your parents respond to consequences, Tommy, I replied. They can choose to learn from this experience and become better people, or they can choose to remain angry and entitled. I shared a final piece of wisdom with him. Real love sometimes requires making difficult decisions. Enabling someone's bad behavior isn't helping them. It's hurting them. 4 p.m. approached. I sat in my armchair. Victor's dark sedan was parked discreetly down the street. In position, ready when you are, his text read. The sound of car doors closing announced their arrival. Melissa wore a triumphant smile. Mark shuffled behind her, fidgeting as predicted. Hello, Dad. I hope you've thought this through and realize family is more important than principles, Melissa said with casual arrogance. I have thought about it very carefully, I replied, stepping aside. In fact, I have a surprise for you both. They moved into the living room, Melissa confident, Mark nervous by the doorway. Dad, we don't need surprises, she insisted. We just need you to be reasonable about this situation. To do what, Mark? I asked, maintaining the advantage of standing. To find another investor to cheat, to start another failed company with someone else's money? It's $250,000. You spend more than that on advertising for the dealerships every year, Melissa argued. Then what is the issue? Why are you being so stubborn about helping your own family? Before I could answer, the sound of car doors closing drew their attention. Mark looked out the window, then froze. No, he whispered, his face white. No, no, no. The doorbell rang again, authoritative and persistent. Expecting someone else, Dad? Melissa asked, confusion replacing her confidence. I smiled, feeling the satisfaction of a climax achieved. I'm expecting an education for you both. I walked to the door and opened it. David Richards stood on my porch, brief in hand, flanked by 2 witnesses. Mark Johnson? Richards asked, his voice professional and clear. Mark couldn't move. Yes, I answered for him, stepping aside. He's right here. He's been expecting you. Richards stepped into the threshold, papers held out. Mr. Johnson, you have been served. As Mark's eyes darted from the legal documents to Victor Stone's lawyer, Melissa's scream of shock filled the house. The man who was standing next to me when Melissa returned for the money was David Richards, Victor Stone's attorney, ready to serve Mark with a $250,000 lawsuit. What do you think was the immediate fallout for Melissa and Mark after the serving of the papers? The immediate fallout for Melissa and Mark was complete shock, hysteria, and the shattering of Melissa's manipulative confidence. Mark was instantly defeated. Upon recognizing Victor Stone and his associate, he pressed himself against the wall, shaking his head in denial, whispering, No, no, no. His initial reaction was to point at me, screaming, You arranged this. How could you do this? This demonstrated his immediate realization that his father-in-law had orchestrated the entire scenario, replacing the expected bailout with severe legal consequences. Melissa's confidence dissolved into pure rage and a sense of profound betrayal. She initially yelled at me, "You sold out your own daughter to this man." As Victor confirmed the $250,000 lawsuit, her focus shifted to me, asking, "Dad, how long have you been planning this? How long have you been lying to your own daughter?" She realized her carefully planned emotional blackmail had not only failed but had backfired catastrophically, bringing her husband's biggest fear right into my living room. The legal process began immediately. Victor's associate formally served Mark with the lawsuit, confirming that the $250,000 debt plus accumulated interest was now subject to court proceedings. Mark was informed he had 30 days to respond to the lawsuit and was advised to seek competent legal representation. As the door closed behind Victor and his associate, Melissa and Mark were left standing in the living room, like survivors of a natural disaster. They had lost all control. The confrontation ended with Melissa's voice carrying a note of recognition and fear, asking me, "What happens to us now?" They were forced to confront their reality and the full weight of their poor choices, just as I had intended. For months later, the education and accountability had begun to take hold. Mark, on legal advice, avoided bankruptcy by agreeing to a structured payment plan with Victor. He stopped hiding, found a steady, non-glamorous job with a software consulting firm, and was actively repaying the debt. Melissa was still angry, but she made her first tentative call to me, suggesting the wall of resentment was beginning to crack. Tommy continued to receive an invaluable lesson in integrity and consequence, which I confirmed by showing him the revised will, making him a major beneficiary due to his character. The confrontation, though painful, led to healing through responsibility, confirming my belief that enabling bad behavior would have been wrong. Teaching consequences were difficult, but necessary. If you like this story, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share your impressions of this story in the comments. To listen to the next story, click on the box on the right. Thank you for watching.